You're watching Man Coverage with Nate Schmidt and James Bonneville on National Streaming Sports.
Good morning, everyone. I guess for some of you, happy December 1st, 2024. This is Knoxville Nate Digital and James Bonneville. This is Man Coverage. We are breaking down college football and week number 14. Got to be honest, didn't want to be here this morning. And I think Chip Kelly set up our show because nothing would work. And we got deleted and we had some technical difficulties. So apparently Chip was running the show. James, how are you doing, bud?
Well, we're not going to have much to cover today because really not much happened yesterday. So, I mean, this could be a pretty quick show overall, don't you think?
Yeah. About 5 minutes we're going to do.
Maybe 10.
Maybe 10 if we have that much content. That's what I don't know why, but I listened to Zach Smith after the game. Don't know if you know this, but he was what was the Earl Bruce? He's Earl Bruce's grandson. Did you know that?
Yeah.
I guess I knew that and I forgot that. But anyway,
that's how he got the job with Urban.
Yeah, the first job.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, at Florida or
I can't remember.
I can't remember who his first job was or where he first started with Urban, but we tuned into him and was listening to him and he's like, it kind of sucks that we lost. He goes, but I got to be honest with you boys. He's like, it's great for business. And, it's true. I mean, nobody talks about Ohio State when they win. It's just like, who cares? Buckeyes won again. They suck anyway. They don't play anybody. And then when they lose, it's like front page fucking news. And, he had like thousands of people on the stream. Hopefully people will watch us complain about it. I guess we're late to the party, but this is what we do. I don't even know what to say, man. I didn't feel really confident, to be honest with you, going into the game. I was worried about, being 3 O-linemen down and playing Donovan Jackson at left tackle and Severvald at left guard, who's very inexperienced. Heinzman at center, although I know he's played there before. I never really liked him there, and this offensive line was way better with McLaughlin at center. I didn't feel real confident going into it. James, were you that shocked that they lost? Because I honestly, I was not.
I was shocked they lost, but their game plan was moronic. I mean, think about it. Helen Keller could tell you if Will Johnson is not playing in the game, all you got to do is watch the Texas film. And you have the number one receiver and the number one receiving corps in the country. Why the hell are you trying to run the ball up the middle against Kenneth Grant and Mason Graham? Because, newsflash, they're both going to be a top 15 pick in this upcoming draft. That is the strength of their freaking team. And the entire freaking time, Ryan Day has, he was told all offseason about how they're not tough enough. They're not tough enough. Why in the world do you try to pull it out in this game against your offensive line is depleted and you're going up against the best 2D tackles in college football. What the hell are you thinking?
Yeah, sometimes we look at the game afterwards and we're like, well, the players are the ones on the field and the players are the ones playing and you got to blame the players. Well, I don't blame the players at all. This
I don't blame the
offensive
players
game
at all either.
The offensive game plan was just absolute dog shit, and the play calling was even worse than the game plan itself. How do you not change what you're doing after you see that it's not working on the field at halftime? It didn't even look like they really changed anything about what they were doing. In fact, the play calling might have been worse in the second half. And, I heard yesterday a lot of people calling into the shows and everything, and they're like, well, what would you have done different? What would you have done different? Everyone said the same thing. Throw the damn ball. Throw the ball down the field. I mean, hell, you throw it down the field, there's only really one bad thing that can happen. Maybe it gets intercepted, but you can catch it. You can get an interference call, which they call all the time. You can get a defensive holding. I mean, throw the ball. Throw the ball.
Fucking drive. They could not cover Jeremiah Smith. You got him in single coverage. They could not cover him. You had the pass interference in the first freaking drive. I mean, what the absolute hell are they thinking? I mean, here's some stats that I came up with. Ohio State had a 15% run success rate. That means pretty much you're throwing away a down every time you run the damn ball. I mean, Michigan ran the perfect game plan, and that was the only game plan they could run, and Ohio State fell freaking to it. I don't get it. I mean, hell, the fourth quarter, Michigan had the ball for 13 and a half minutes. Ohio State only got 10 yards in the fourth quarter. You tell me how you're going to win. Michigan didn't win this game. Ohio State lost it. And I mean, I'd like to say this is something new for Chip Kelly, but I've seen Chip Kelly coach when he was at Oregon. Whenever they played Stanford, either against Harbaugh or against Shaw, they kept trying to shove the square peg into the round hole over and over and over again, and it wouldn't work. And what happens? You got freaking burned. I mean, if I'm an Ohio State fan, you're going to make the playoff, even though some of the jackknobs in SEC country, they don't deserve American. Yeah, go back to your trailer. Do you trust them winning 4 games to win a national title? I mean, especially with the offensive line the way it is now. I don't.
No, we're not going to win the national title. However, our defense is good. Our defense played amazing yesterday. I would like to give some credit. We've complained and we've talked shit and we've ripped on Jack Sawyer. Jack Sawyer played his effing ass off yesterday. Captain Jack did everything he could do to try and win the game. Talik Williams was a man-child. He played amazing. Was very impressed with him. I do have to give some credit to the defense. Jim Knowles, by the way, deserves a lot of credit because he called a hell of a game and set his guys up for success and understood what Michigan was going to try and do. And Jim Knowles deserves credit for the way that he coached yesterday. So I will give credit to the defense and to Jack Sawyer and the boys. They played a hell of a game. I felt bad for them because they were going out there and stopping Michigan. They were going out there when they were being put in a horrible situation when they're throwing interceptions, throwing the ball inside their own 20 and throwing it to the other team. And so the defense gets stuck trying to defend, a 15-yard field. And, they did the best they could, and they left it all out there on the field. And that's the one thing I will say going forward and into, do I have a ton of confidence that the Buckeyes are going to win the national championship? No, I don't. But I do feel good that, we can travel and we can play with anybody because, our defense is solid. The problem is, the offense has gotten worse, losing – Simmons, when it happened, I told you that was the one player that we really couldn't afford to lose because we don't have anybody. We didn't have anybody behind him. And then the guy that we did have behind him, got hurt himself the next game. So, now we're 3 deep at left tackle. We're really playing a guard at left tackle, and it shows. This offensive line wasn't great to begin with. James. Let's just be honest. I mean, this was not a championship caliber offensive line to begin with, and now they're 3 people, deep. So that's what I was concerned with going in, and that's why we lost.
I mean, this is something I've been preaching for the last 4 years. I mean, even going back to DeJuan Jones when he was on that offensive line, the last 4 years, there's been zero depth. You couldn't afford to have one guy get hurt, and this is the game it punishes you in. I mean, we keep hearing about the game. How about you actually prepare for the game rather than freaking trying to, like, I go back to running the ball. Look at the stats. You take away the two explosion plays Michigan had. They ran the ball for 3 yards a carry. They threw for 3.9 yards per pass attempt. Davis Warren was on freaking run. Like, he stole their like the defensive line wanted to get his freaking lunch money. I mean, what more could the defense do? What more? I mean, Jack Sawyer, you're on the freaking 3? His presence of mind to drop back into coverage and get that pick in the 4th quarter. I mean, that was his career right there. I take my hat off to that kid, because any other time, everybody else would have kept going to, because he had a clear line to Davis Warren. Him dropping back in the coverage gave the offense a chance. Too bad the offense blew it yet again.
Scored 0 points. How do you get the ball, inside the 20 and you can't even get a point? I don't understand that. How is it that you supposedly I still don't know where the $20 million number came from, that everyone throws around like that's freaking in the Bible or something. I don't know how much they spent, but they did spend money on some of these kids. How do you not go get a kicker? How do you have a kicker that can't make it? I mean, I don't get it. Some of those were the easiest kicks in football, from the left hash. I mean, I could make that one. And
they were inside 40. They were inside 40 yards.
The first one he missed was from 34, and the second one he missed was closer than that. I don't understand how you can't make a field goal. You got the Michigan guy making 54-yarders into the wind, and then you have your own kicker who you can't, you'd think after basically losing that Georgia game because you couldn't even come close to making a kick, you might want to invest in someone who can kick the ball. You have the #1 soccer program in the country. Go get somebody from that team and bring them out to kick field goals. I don't understand, and I've been a staunch defender of Ryan Day. I really have. I like the man personally. I think he's a pretty good football coach. But I can't really defend him after yesterday. All the decisions that he made, were exposed as being bad ones. The Chip Kelly decision, the Will Howard decision, the not getting a kicker decision, the not getting depth at offensive line decision. All of these things led to this debacle yesterday. And, it was a bad thing. And, I feel bad for him because, like I said, he is a really great person. He wins almost every game, but when you get into the big games, you gotta have a pretty good plan. And there was just no plan yesterday. And, I'm not sure how they got out of the meeting and thought that was the way to go.
There's a stat that's going to freaking blow your mind, Nate. I just came across this. Only Northwestern had less points against Michigan.
Yeah, I believe that. I believe
it.
Only
Northwestern.
Well, it was a pitiful game plan that set them up for failure when you run the ball, on 1st and 2nd down when you can't get any yards. I mean, that's when you start getting creative, by the way. You run a swing pass, you run a screen, you do short passes to the running back. You supplement the running game with a short passing attack to your running backs. I mean, I know this, and I'm not a coach,
Hell, Mike Leach did it without even throwing to his running backs. I mean, this isn't freaking. You've got receivers galore on this team who are going to be playing on Sundays. I mean, I can think of 5 off the top of my freaking head, and I'm probably already slow on that. How in the world, like, you don't have to freaking go for 7, go deep every single time. Freaking pepper them up. I mean, especially make their D tackles move sideline to sideline. Tire them out. Make them substitute in. They literally played into Michigan's freaking game plan. I can't believe they lost, honestly. Like, this has got to be the upset of the year, honestly. Am I wrong?
It's a rivalry game. So I don't understand. That's the other thing that I didn't get was the 21-point spread. There was no way we were winning this game by 21 points.
No.
Tell me the last time that either team won this game by 21 points and, show it to me, because I don't recall that happening much, if ever. And I didn't think this game was going to be like that at all. I thought it would be a close game and maybe we would get lucky and win, but I really wasn't surprised, that it didn't go well, because I thought they would get shoved around, especially on the offensive line. I mean, they got worked all day, and that's just what I kind of expected. But I as I said, the defense came to play. Caleb Downs had 11 tackles. Latham Ransom had a bunch. I think he had like 9 or 10. Cody Simon once again had an amazing game. Tyleek Williams, I already mentioned, and then we talked about Jack Sawyer, who was a difference maker.
Yeah.
In that game. The defensive backs didn't really even have to do anything. I mean, they threw the ball 16 times. So, I want to give them credit, but it's kind of hard when, the other team doesn't even really throw the ball.
That pick that Caleb Downs had was freaking amazing. I mean, that was down by his freaking shoelaces, and he was able to pick that one off. That was impressive as hell. But
he might be the best player. He might be the best defensive player in the country.
Well, I would agree with you, but you and I both know the campaign that's going on for Travis Hunter right now, and
Travis Hunter's good, but
Caleb Downs.
I would rather have Caleb Downs on my defense.
Do you know what he reminds me of? Is Ed Reed. There's a lot of Ed Reed in that guy.
He reminds me a little bit, and maybe it's the number he's wearing, but he reminds me of Mike Doss. With the way that he's always lined up correctly. Yeah. He always makes plays. He doesn't miss tackles. He's got a little bit of that in him, and he's one of the better safeties I've ever seen. James, I've been trying not to talk about this, but I guess we have to. What do you do now? I mean, do you fire this guy and move on? Do you let him keep coaching the playoffs and then fire him? What do you do? I mean, we might as well talk about it, because that's what
you can't fire him. You can't fire him. You just can't. I mean, right now you can't fire him, because you don't want to create more havoc going into the playoffs. Hell, we don't even know what the committee's going to do. That's the thing, is this is all new. So we're kind of like at, in this la-la land where, hell, South Carolina could sneak their ass into the damn thing. We don't know. And all I know is they got to take a real strong look in the mirror and play it game by game. I mean, right now, if you would have told me going into this game who they play, I was going to say Boise or maybe, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know now. But they were going to have a home game. Now I don't even know if they're going to have a home game. I mean, this is weird.
Who's that?
Ohio State.
Oh, they're not going to have a home game. There's no way.
This is going to be freaking crazy.
There's no way. There's no way they have a home game after this. I mean, the people were, already questioning them. I mean, that's the funny thing that I don't really understand is you rate these guys, you put them at the number 2, position all year, but then, they lose a game that they shouldn't have, And now they suck. And, I don't know about that. Did they play well yesterday? No. Do they deserve criticism for losing that game? Yes. Should they drop in the polls after losing that game? Yes. Should they be out of the playoff picture? Hell no.
No.
There's a lot of other teams that have lost way shittier games than this. And I don't care what anyone tells you or what ESPN scores says. Georgia lost to Georgia Tech. Okay. That fourth down bullshit PI call that every person that has ever played football knows was not PI at all.
How many holds? I mean, seriously, we're going to get into that game, but how many freaking holes did you see that Georgia had?
Georgia's worse than us, and that's saying something.
I mean, honest to God, for what Brent Key has done, we'll get into that game, but all I have one recommendation or two recommendations if Ryan Day is going to coach Ohio State next year. One, stop making stupid offseason remarks. Because, remember 4 years ago when he said you're going to hang 100 on Michigan? Well, if you add up all your scores, you've only hung 84 on them. And that was 4 years ago. So get rid of the dumb comments and put a chip on your shoulder. And second, build an offensive line. Start in recruiting, which is something I know getting the number one receiver, the number two receiver every single year is good. But if you can't protect the quarterback, who cares? Get back to old school Ohio State roots and make Ohio State again. Am I wrong?
Yeah, no, they need to do something about the offensive line. It's been an issue. That when they had Paris Johnson Jr. and DeJuan Jones, as we mentioned, those guys were solid. And Fryer, was playing the guard, and that was a pretty good offensive line. However, there wasn't the depth that there needed to be on that line either. I mean, you had Thanos at right tackle, you had a top 6 pick in Paris Johnson. The problem was because it happened when DeJuan Jones got hurt, we didn't have anybody else to put in there. And so that's been an issue. And I don't really understand that as to why it hasn't been addressed and fixed. They were hot and heavy on David Sanders. He committed to Tennessee. I know he was in town last week at the Indiana game. Thank God he wasn't there yesterday. But they need to do whatever it takes to get him for sure. They have another left tackle that they've already signed out of Toledo. The problem is he's going to have to play right away. Yeah. Based on this team. That's a problem. But I don't think he's going to be around. They're not going to allow him. I don't think they're going to let him solve it. I think his days are numbered. I think he's going to get fired. But I think they'll probably do it after the season.
Well, if that's the case, $37.28 million is the buyout. Who do you hire?
Well, we'll get to that after the break.
Yeah.
Football season is here, and SeatGeek is my go-to for buying tickets. Now, with SeatGeek, every single ticket is backed with their buyer guarantee. We've all had plans change, and when you can't make it to the big game, SeatGeek has you covered. They're the only ticketer that allows you to return your tickets ahead of the event for credit with SeatGeek swaps. So when things come up, I know that my tickets won't go to waste. So what are you waiting for? Download the SeatGeek app to maximize your possibilities and shop live events with confidence.
Yeah, and that is, the $1 million question, or I guess, what would you say, 36 million?
37.28 million.
Yeah, that's fucking chump change for the Ohio State program. They'll write that check in a second. That doesn't matter. Money doesn't matter. No one cares about money. And this decision, everyone's like, well, what's Ross Bjork going to do? No, he's not making this decision. No. Let's be honest. The people that have the cash are going to tell him what to do. And,
Ross Bjork's the same guy that hired Jimbo Fisher and has a $75 million buyout at A&M. So
correct. And that's my question is, are they going to fire him? I think so. Who do you hire? Because I've seen the, Fickle, I've seen the Vrabel. Vrabel's not coming here. Okay. Vrabel's going to get a job in
Yeah.
the NFL. He's never been a head coach in college football, and I doubt he wants to go into that world. Does he want to go to Ohio State? I mean, he got fired for the Titans for not winning enough. Does he want to go to Ohio State and have to win every single game? Hell no. He ain't coming here. Luke Fickell can't win at Wisconsin. So how's he going to win here? I don't think that he's coming in. Any chance he had of coming here was gone once he, crapped his pants in Madison. So I think that's off the table. James, I mean, you tell me. I mean, who do they get?
That's the hard part about it right now is everybody I think of, you need somebody with an edge to them. That's why Vrabel made sense. But I saw an interview. He's not going to take a job like this with what's going on with NIL and transfer portal and all that. And then you got to recruit on top of it. It's a completely different game. I mean, the name I personally like the most is Rhett Lashley at SMU, but does he understand the culture at Columbus? No. I mean,
yeah, I just don't think I think that he's a good coach? Yes. Do I think he's done a phenomenal job at SMU this year?
Yeah.
I do. I think he doesn't get the credit he deserves. But what does the Ohio State fan base do when they tell you they're bringing in Lashley?
Well, because they're worried about winning the freaking press conference, and I'm sorry, fan base. You got to be worried about winning games because they don't put up banners for winning the press conference. I mean, we've seen enough people win press conferences and blow it out their ass. Billy Napier would be one of those people who I would put on that list. Jimbo Fisher, who the current AD hired. So, I mean, do the right choice. Don't, win games because nobody remembers press conferences, as soon as the season starts.
That's true. But so you still haven't told me.
Marcus Freeman.
Yeah. I mean, that is the one name that I would like, I think would be a good fit. I think people in Columbus know he's from Columbus. I mean, I think he would, be a good fit. But does he leave Notre Dame? I mean, I don't think he leaves Notre Dame. It's way easier to win in Notre Dame. I mean, you get to choose your own schedule. You don't have to play USC, UCLA, Oregon, Michigan. I mean, go down the list of the 55 teams that are in the Big Ten. You don't have to play any of those if you don't want to. I mean, it's easier to win at Notre Dame. And it's easier to get into the playoff at Notre Dame. I mean, I don't know if he would leave. But I think the first call you make is to Dan Lanning at Oregon, and you say, would you have any interest if this job were to be coming available? Obviously, you saw the game yesterday. Would you have any interest at all? And if he says no, I'm never leaving, hangs up the phone, well, then you're not going to get him. If he doesn't hang up the phone, you then ask how many millions of dollars would it take to make you change your shirt? And that's who I would call first.
You and I both know that Uncle Phil will open up the checkbook.
Maybe so, but I mean, maybe he wants to go somewhere else? I mean, I don't know. I mean, he didn't really have much ties and much background with Oregon when he went there. So I don't know. I don't know if he would listen. I don't know if he would take the call. I don't know if he would potentially leave, but that's who I would call first. And then I would call Marcus Freeman. And then after that, I have no idea. I don't know where you would go after that.
I mean, we got to even look at the pros too. I mean, that's the thing is there could be somebody in the NFL. I mean, honestly, we can't even go there yet because he's still coaching. And I mean, do they want to make a firing right before signing day? That could blow up everything plus the portal at the same time. I mean,
well, that's the problem is you've got a shit ton of talent on this team right now, no matter what anybody says. And you've got the number 1 or number 2 ranked class in the country already, committed. So, once you get rid of Ryan Day, And then do all these guys stay there? No. I mean, that's the problem.
Why aren't we talking about Kurt Signetti?
Why are we not?
Yeah.
Well, one, he signed an 8-year extension like 6 days ago. Two, do you think that he would be? I mean, does one season? I mean, hell, Ohio State beat him. Ryan Day beat him.
It's Indiana.
I know, dude. I know, but I'm just saying. I don't know. I don't know if he could fix this, I guess, is my thought.
So the answer is Jesus.
Yeah, I don't know. That's the biggest problem of all of this, and this is what I explained to you is there's a unrealistic expectation to win every single game, and that's why some of these games they lose because there's so much pressure to win every game. I mean, as we already talked about, when Ohio State wins, no one cares. No one talks about it. No one says anything. There's no big article. There's no big press clipping. There's nothing when Ohio State wins. But when they lose, it is front page news. It's all that anyone talks about. It's all we've talked about for 31 minutes is that they lost.
Yeah.
So, and Dabo, not my favorite guy in the world, but I have to give him credit. He said this a couple of years ago when people were criticizing him down at Clemson, was that the problem is you have these fans that have unrealistic expectations and they don't appreciate what's been done. They don't appreciate, the job that's being done. They just expect, the team to win the national championship every year. And that's not going to happen. And I hear a lot of people saying that they should bring back Urban. I don't think Urban's going to coach anymore.
No, I think he's done.
And B, I don't think Ohio State could bring him back. I mean, that just would be a media nightmare.
Yeah.
I mean, don't you think that? I mean, I just don't
Agreed.
think that's even possible.
Well, I mean, I'm surprised somebody hasn't brought Tressel up. I mean, now Tressel would be a stabilizing force.
Yeah, he's also 87 years old.
Bingo.
I love Jim Tressel. He's one of my favorite coaches. He's one of my favorite people of all time. But do I think that, that they would ever bring him back? No. Do I think that, B, he would want to come back at this time, at his age? No, I don't. That's not going to happen. And I don't think, I think Urban kind of likes his life now. He doesn't have to win anything. All he has to do is just not get caught freaking on chicks at his bar, and he can't even do that. So
we'll see.
I don't know. Let's talk about some other college football games. You want
Wait,
to?
there were more?
Yeah. Can we
Holy crap!
Can we talk about anything else?
We should probably. Yeah, there's probably a few games. Wait, how about we do Syracuse, Miami? And by the way, does the U actually mean choke?
Yeah. The U is not good. The U is not good. This is okay, and this is the last thing we'll talk about Ohio State. When Cam Ward said he was hitting the portal, that is the guy that I said they should bring in. He looks like an Ohio State quarterback. He reminds me of Ohio State quarterbacks, and with his dual skill set. Troy Smith. I mean, Terrell Pryor. I mean, Justin Fields, Stanley Jackson. All those guys with the ability to run it and throw it and make plays and all that. I thought that's who they should bring in when Kyle McCord said he was leaving. Kyle McCord had a good game yesterday, but, he's also had a couple of shitters, which he also did last year. But, kudos to Syracuse. Syracuse is 9-3. And, no one really talks about them because they've had a couple of bad losses. But yesterday was a pretty good win. And this is the issue that the Canes have had all year, and that's that their defense sucks. And giving up 42 points to Syracuse when, you're a Miami team that was trying to make the playoff and win the national championship. How did they give up 42 to the Orange, James?
I mean, it's not unheard of. I mean, you'd have to literally be living in a freaking barn not to realize Syracuse was going to throw the ball. I mean, McCourt leads the nation in passing yards. You know what they're going to do. It ain't freaking rocket science. And I mean, Kyle McCourt had a field day. I mean, they were down 21-0 to start the game, and suddenly the bus heated up and it took off and came back and knocked off the Canes. I mean, this is 380 yards passing, 26 of 36. I mean, it's not like he dropped 50 passes out there. 26 of 36. I mean, hell, they were 36 and 32, had 32 rushes. They were balanced. They haven't balanced much of the year, but they were whipping that ball all over the place. You had two guys with over 100 yards receiving. You had multiple explosion plays, and I mean many multiples. It's tough to play in Syracuse for a dome that's named after a freaking air conditioner, and there's no air conditioning in the place. Man, that place gets hot, and those sidelines are on top of you. That's a very difficult place to play, and Miami didn't show up.
Yeah, they certainly kind of laid an egg there in the third quarter, giving up 21 points, and their offense sputtered a little bit as well. I wasn't 100% shocked about this one either, just because
I wasn't either.
Miami's had issues all year, with winning games that they should have easily won. I mean, you look back at that California game that they won 39-38. They really had no business winning that game. That Louisville game, they won 52-45. I mean, yeah, they won, but they gave up 45 to Louisville. The Virginia Tech game that they won 38-34. I mean, they could have easily lost that game. This is a team that, I think, as I said it when they were ranked very high, I said that they were overrated. And, that is, I believe, come to light.
They were sixth on paper, but realistically, they were probably in the 20s.
Yeah, that's just where they're at.
I mean, people put too much freaking emphasis on record. Quite frankly, Missouri. I mean, let's be honest. They're the worst 9-3 team I've ever seen in my freaking life.
Missouri has no business being ranked, and I don't understand why the pollsters, who the hell is voting for Missouri to be ranked? I mean, I don't get it. They're still ranked, and they could barely beat Arkansas, so I don't really understand that. But that's a story for another day. Let's get into one other game here, just in a moment. But I think we need to take a quick commercial break.
National.
If it were.
National Streaming Sports is brought to you in part by BetUs.com, designed for true fans. NFL odds, Week 1 and futures, college football odds, including Heisman Trophy favorites and playoff odds, NBA odds of division winners and playoffs, Major League Baseball playoff and World Series odds, the National Hockey League Conference playoffs and Stanley Cup odds, and boxing wagers. Betting opportunities include versus the spreads and outright winners, also during the game. Use our link on our website, nessp.info, the Bet Us Opportunities webpage, for a 125% bonus on your first 3 deposits. Must be 21 years old, and remember, bet responsibly.
We are back, and we are talking college football. This is Man Coverage with Knoxville Nate Digital and James Bonneville. We have covered a lot so far. We already discussed the Buckeyes blowing up in the shoe yesterday. We already discussed the Canes falling apart in the dome. And we might as well talk about the game that occurred, was it Friday?
Friday.
between the Georgia Bulldogs and the Georgia Tech Ramblin' Wreck. I don't care, as I already mentioned, what the hell the final score says. Georgia Tech won this game. There was a 4th down play at the end of regulation where, they called a pass interference on the Georgia Tech player, and it wasn't even close to pass interference. And that gave, Georgia a brand new set of downs. They then scored on the next play, and then Haynes King fumbled, and the rest is history. But that to me was an absolute joke. I don't know if they were just trying to get Georgia another win so they could put them in. I don't really know, but I do know that Georgia doesn't scare me at all anymore.
Yeah.
Their offense is just, I don't really understand what their offense even is. They have nobody on the outside that really scares me. We talk about their running backs, and Nate Frazier had 11 carries for 50 yards yesterday. They don't really have anybody that scares me on offense, and for some reason, their quarterback isn't good anymore. Now his stats look pretty good after the 9 overtimes or whatever it was, but I'm still concerned about him. This defense came to play in the in the second half, and especially in the fourth quarter and the overtimes, or maybe not so much the overtimes, considering they gave up 7-8 scores. But they played better in the second half. They got run over like a truck in the first half. What did you think about this game? Do you agree with me that PI was bullshit? And what do you think about the Bulldogs at this point?
I will. Well, first of all, it was Tech versus Georgia, the refs and the fans.
Correct.
I mean, honestly, the fumble with 2 minutes to go in the game, that was a blatant targeting call. That was not called. I mean,
I agree with that. The one when they hit the quarterback with his helmet.
I mean, literally, that could be used as a textbook case of what targeting is, and they didn't call it. How many times? I mean, literally, if any time any Tech defender got through the offensive line, it was a hold. I mean, some of them were so blatantly bad. I mean, you saw the shoulder pad come out. He's dragging him down by the shoulder pad. No flag, no flag, no flag. I mean, Tech does not have cornerbacks right now. They're so depleted in injuries. How was this even a freaking game, except Georgia couldn't stop Hudson Carr or Haynes King if his life depended on it. I mean, man, he was running all over the place. I mean, I'm surprised he's not in traction right now for the amount of hits that kid took. I mean, it was what Brett Key has built in Atlanta is freaking phenomenal. I mean, honestly, you want to talk about a name for Ohio State? It's not sexy. Look at the culture Brett Key has built in Atlanta. That is freaking amazing.
All you have to say to me is Haynes King had 24 carries for 110 yards and 3 touchdowns, and that includes sack yards, bro. So, yeah, I do agree. He has done a phenomenal job at Georgia Tech. In my opinion, I would give him the ACC Coach of the Year.
Oh, God, yeah.
Going 7-5, and actually he went 8-4 if you give him this game that they won and didn't get credit for. He's got wins over Miami. He's got wins over Florida State, which I know doesn't look as good now, but when he played them, Florida State was ranked number 10 in the country. They lost to Syracuse by 3. This is a really, really good football team, and they don't have a ton of talent, but they play, like their coach. I mean, it looks like, he's created an identity that these guys have bought into. And, I think if he stays there, this could be, a team that comes back into the fray, potentially. So I don't think he will. I think he'll probably go somewhere else just because he's done such a great job there. I don't know about the fit at Ohio State, but I do like him, and I like what he's done.
But the culture he's built is the exact same culture you want in Columbus.
I agree, but I just don't know if you could sell that. Talking about someone else who's done a phenomenal job, and that would be the young man at South Carolina.
Baby Beamer.
My God, man. He kind of is reminding me of his dad a lot these days.
Yeah.
Because he has his team. He's got game plans galore. He has his team ready to play. Well, and also it does help that he found him a freaking quarterback. This kid is a freshman, James, a freshman in Lenora Sellers. And yesterday in the biggest game of his career, he doesn't ever look worried to me. He doesn't rush things. He doesn't look like he's concerned. He just looks like he's ready to play the game. And that's what you want, like in a senior, much less a freshman. And they took out, a Clemson team that have been playing some pretty good football. And, I really think the sky is the limit with this kid. What do you think about this Lenora Sellers? And, how good is South Carolina right now? Because they're playing as good as anybody.
You're 6'3", 242 and playing quarterback, and he's got speed. I mean, the guy is he runs like a running back. It's like having Eddie George play quarterback for you. Like, I enjoy watching him because he's not afraid of taking a hit. He wants to lay one on somebody. And it's freaking awesome watching them play. What Beamer has done at South Carolina, rather than – what was the year that they had to bring in a grad assistant back in because he still had eligibility to play quarterback for a game or a couple games?
Yeah.
I mean, now he's actually got somebody who, doesn't you have to put baling wire and duct tape on. I mean, 9-3 in Columbia. I mean, they got to be doing cartwheels for him right now.
Yeah. I mean, we all thought he might leave a couple of years ago when, he had a pretty amazing season. Without a quarterback, and now he's got one, and we see. I mean, think back to the LSU game that they lost by 3 points, and certainly, if you go back and look at that game, I'm not going to break it all down for you, but go back and watch it. He had a realistic chance of winning that game, and then the Alabama game, there was a lot of questionable calls at the end of that one, to say the least, especially on the 2-point try. And, they lost that game by 2 points in Tuscaloosa. So, I mean, besides the Ole Miss game where they just got drubbed 27-3, this team has been in or should have won every single game they've played. And, I don't think Coach Beamer's getting enough credit. Do you?
No, not at all. I mean, quite frankly, there's definitely a talent divide between him and a lot of the other teams in the SEC, and he does more with less than a lot of coaches. But you look over his tenure, I mean, he's usually a good second half guy too as well. But it helps when you got Lenora Sanders and freaking Rocket Sanders. Norris and Sanders as your quarterback running back combination, because it's like you have two tails sitting right there, right with you.
Yeah, no, it helps. It helps having a Q. There's no doubt about that. And we talk about him being a pretty good coach and maybe being on some people. I mean, do you think he's on people's radar about getting a job somewhere? I mean, I think he's proven himself
I would
there.
Be. I
would call his ass.
I would. Yeah.
I would too. Let's talk about another gentleman who is, in his first season at the helm. We all know it. They paid $77 million for Jimbo to go away. And brought, Coach Elko in. And, James, I got to be honest with you, I'm not sure they're better. I don't know. I mean, you tell me. This game yesterday, they couldn't really get anything going on offense, which was the same issue that Jimbo had while, in College Station. I mean, what more could you want than that atmosphere? There's 108,000 screaming crazy people in that stadium, and they just can never win the big game. And now they're 8-4. I mean, I'm pretty sure that was Jimbo's record most of the time. What did you think about this performance by A&M? And do you think that Coach Elko's been an improvement over Jimbo or no?
I do think he's been an improvement. I think it's going to take a little bit longer for his culture to set in, just because the expectations amongst that alumni base are just so, outlandish is the best word. But you look at Marcel Reed, he is a solid quarterback. With Moss and Ruben Owens, I think there is some potential there long term. Honestly, Texas just plain outplayed them yesterday. It was just Texas was just a better team, especially on the outside. And you look at it, the one touchdown pass that Quinn Ewers went to Texas A&M for 93 yards on a return. So Ewers should get the yards for that. But at the end of the day, Texas just kicked their ass on the ground. This was the one thing we were wondering about with Texas was, were they going to have a run game with all the injuries they had at tailback? And Wisner really stepped up. In all honesty, if I was Sarkisian, I probably would have started Arch Manning, because Quinn Ewers just did not look right completely. A lot of that stuff was a lot of misdirection. It wasn't his best game, but they needed him in there to make sure they got to the SEC title game.
Yeah. And, now they're 11-1. This was a big win for them just because it closed out, the SEC. They're going to go to the SEC championship game and play Georgia again. I think they beat Georgia this time.
Agreed.
I think they're going to put, some extra guys on the outside protecting the quarterback, and I think they'll beat them this time. Sarkisian has done a great job there. We need to give this guy credit. He put the bottle down, and he's been, coaching his ass off. So good for him. And Coach Sarkisian, after they beat A&M, he went out and pushed his players off the logo. Imagine that. As his players were starting to stomp on the Aggies logo, he went out and told them to not do that. Amazing how that works. Anyway, let's talk about another game here as we're shotgunning these. And that was, Coach Fickell and everybody who is in Columbus who wants to bring him back to the Ohio State Buckeyes. What say you, James, after your Gophers took care of business yesterday against the Wisconsin Badgers? What do you think about the job Coach Fickell has done so far? What did you think about the game yesterday? And what's your overall assessment for the season for the Gophs?
Gophs, honestly, they underperformed. It's kind of funny looking at 7-5 and how tough this Big Ten schedule was. They were 3-4 in one-score games, of which 3 of the 4 they should have really won. In all honesty, I agree. This is kind of scary. We could be talking Minnesota at 10-2 and knocking on the freaking doorstep of the CFP. But really, I want to talk about the Badgers and how, not every coach fits every program. And I'm wondering if Luke Fickell, great name, you won the press conference. He is a good coach. But I've seen these guys play in person, and this is a team with no identity. Like, who's the guy you want to hang the hat on in this team, especially defensively? Their offensive line looked confused, and there's some real talent on that offensive line. Defensively, there was no stud out there. There was nobody that kind of played. They went through the motions with the W on their helmet, expecting to get one, and they weren't really that good.
No.
And 5-7, I think, was being kind. Their running game, questionable. They're a passing team where it's predictable what they're going to do, and defensively, they're not good against the run or the pass. So what are you?
I don't know, but I do know they used to be a team that would run it down your damn throat. You would
Correct.
know they were going to run it. They would tell you they're going to run it. They would explain to everyone in the stadium they were going to run it. Yep. And then they would still get 7 or 8 yards running it. Yesterday, They had 23 carries for 37 yards total. That's 1.6 per clip.
They didn't cross the 50 until halfway through the third.
Yeah. Yeah, they had 0 points at halftime, bro, and finished the game with 7.
The Gophers didn't
at home.
The Gophers didn't play well.
At home.
And they still kicked their ass. I mean, saying it was 24-7 makes it sound like it was a game. It wasn't a game. It was really embarrassing. And it's kind of like the Texas A&M Texas game. I mean, 17-7 makes it sound close. It wasn't close.
No, not at all. We might as well talk real quickly here about the Iowa team that, is now finishing 8-4. No one's really discussed, the Iowa Hawkeyes, but, they're 8-4 again. And, Nebraska, I think 6-6 is kind of what they are, to be honest with you. When I look at them and I think about the season they've had with the freshman quarterback and a second-year coach, I mean, they're a 6-6 football team. I mean, that's just kind of who they are. But, Drew Stevens hits a 53-yarder to win the game as time expires. That is called a kicker, boys. I don't know how much he makes, but I would send him some cash if I was freaking Ryan Day.
I mean, here's a stat that's going to blow your mind, Nate. All right. Now, Iowa scored a 73-yard touchdown pass. All right. You take that away. They had 91 yards on 40 plays. Yikes. 91 yards on 40 plays. And they won. They had 5 first downs and they won. I mean, hell, to end the game with 20 seconds, Nebraska had the ball with under 30 seconds to go, tied, and they got a sack and fumbled the ball.
Dylan Raiola had 3 fumbles, by the way.
I mean, seriously, they had 5 first downs and won.
That's Iowa football, bro.
Here's a great rule, Matt rule. When you have guys come out for the opening flip, have your captain shake hands. Yeah. Because karma's going to bite you in the ass. You're only 9-35 in one-score games over the last 44. 9-35. This dates back to your predecessor and you and his predecessor. 9-35. You're not closing out shit.
No, I would. I would definitely not be a dick if I sucked that bad. But I wasn't really shocked that Iowa won. But I was shocked when I looked and I saw that they were 8-4 because I don't think anyone's really talked about them being an 8-win football team, but they are. The Hoosiers got right. Last week they were mad about the Buckeyes running the score up, and then they dropped 66 on Purdue. Does Indiana still get in, do you think?
If they don't, that's a crime to humanity.
I agree.
The ICC better be putting down freaking, putting criminal penalties against the committee if that's the case. I mean, what more does Kurt Signitti have to do? He lost to then the number 2 team in the country. That's it. And he kicked everybody else's ass.
Yeah, and they played, they played pretty well in that game. I know the score didn't look great, but that was a closer game than the score said. So I agree. I think Indiana should get in. I think they may surprise some people when they do get in because they are a well-coached football team and they play as one unit. Buckeyes. I think we need to discuss too the highest paid coach in college football. He makes $12 million a year. He coaches the USC Trojan Condoms. And last year with the Heisman Trophy winner, he goes 7-5. And this year he goes 6-6. Why is no one talking about firing this guy, James?
Great question. I mean, quite frankly, I look at Jaden Maivia yesterday. He had more passing yards for Notre Dame than Notre Dame did. I mean, you had 100-yard return for on 2 pass plays. You know, you had a 100-yard return for interception return and a 97-yard interception return. That's more than Notre Dame had through the air the entire game, and had just as many touchdown passes. I mean, USC, it all starts up front. They're still the same team that Lincoln Riley had at Oklahoma, where the defense and offensive line was not good. They had pieces, but they didn't have a freaking complete unit. And
this is the same thing we were saying the first year he was there.
Exactly.
That they weren't good up front, that their defense was suspect. And here we are, 3 years later? And he's given up 49 points to, what's his name? Riley Leonard and the Irish?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry, buddy. Riley Leonard has done a good job managing these games. Is Riley Leonard a good quarterback? Hell no.
See, this is the part that bothers me is USC is going to go, what are they, 6-6 or 5-7? 6-6. And they're going to get sent to the Sun Bowl to play probably like Syracuse. Where they should be sent is to Detroit and play in the Motor City Bowl.
Yeah, against a MAC team.
Against a MAC team.
And get beat. I just don't understand. I 6-6 when you're making $12 million. I don't get it at all. And they're just not getting any better. Let's ring this out with a little bit of Bama, Auburn. Auburn's terrible. I wasn't really shocked that Bama won that game. Mizzou, Arkansas, who cares? Oregon finally beat Washington without their coach and without Michael Penix. Congratulations. Iowa State got a victory. What stands out to you in those games? What am I scrolling over?
Well, I think Bama goes as far as Jalen Milroe takes him.
Yeah.
He has a bad game, they're going to get beat. And Missouri is Missouri. I mean, they're the worst 9-3 team in the country, and I don't know how the hell they're 9-3. I mean,
I don't either.
There's some real dog shit teams in the SEC.
There really is.
I mean, Mississippi State. I mean, people give crap about Purdue. Man, there's a lot of Purdue's in the lower half of the SEC.
There certainly is, and this is the worst SEC. I mean, think if they didn't have Texas. The SEC would be absolute, and if South Carolina wasn't good, this team would be absolute garbage.
South Carolina, Texas should be the SEC championship game.
I agree.
That would be a good game.
Those are the two best teams, in my opinion, right now, as far as who's playing the best. The Vols looked better yesterday, took care of business against Vandy. I will give them credit there. Nico, without many of his wide receivers, he was down, I think, 3 starting wide receivers and still was slinging the ball. And I understand it's Vanderbilt, but Vanderbilt's is a lot better than they used to be. And, he was 18 of 26 for 257 yards and 4 touchdowns. Dylan Sampson not being on the Doak Walker finalist list is one of the biggest hunks of shit that I've ever seen in my life. The guy's got 22 touchdowns on the season. He is one of the best running backs I have ever seen. 256 carries, 1,485 yards, 22 touchdowns, 6 yards a carry. This guy might be the second best running back I've seen all year.
Yeah. Well, I can make an argument for Caleb Johnson, but I'm with you there.
Calling Ryan Day a legitimate coach is like saying a massage therapist is safe around Deshaun Watson.
That is not really where I was going to go with that, but Raul, I will tell you, brother, you ain't going to catch me backing up Ryan Day anymore. I'm not. I mean, I really am not. I back him up all the time. I've been carrying his ass around for 4 years, and I'm done doing it. Yesterday was a joke of a coaching display. It's all on him. Okay. You picked Will Howard. You picked Chip Kelly. You chose not to go out and get an offensive lineman. He has no one to blame but himself. Now, that being said, if Ryan Day gets fired, I think somebody will hire him probably the next day.
Yes.
I truly believe that. And I believe if he goes to a school where he's not required to win every fucking game, he might be better.
That would be Chapel Hill. If he got fired today, he's in Chapel Hill tomorrow.
Yeah, I agree. And did they fire him already, Mac Brown?
Mac Brown's gone.
Gone. Okay, I thought so. I knew he was getting fired. I just didn't know if it had been officially made. Mac Brown's like 94 years old.
Yeah.
By the way, so it's probably a good idea. Go hug your grandkids, bud. They're probably in college.
Yeah.
So go see them graduate and have a good one. Kent State needs a coach, according to Raul. Kent State's
Kenny
the
Burns.
worst. They're the worst college football team I've seen all year, honestly. But no, I think he will get hired. I think he'll get hired quickly. You can say whatever you want to about him, but he does, win games. He struggles when some other coach comes in with a game plan, but whatever. I'm not gonna defend him anymore because I can't after that game yesterday. That was an absolute joke, and he deserves all the criticism he's getting. But we do need to remember these are still human beings with families and kids, and if you want to talk about that he's a shitty coach and all that, go ahead. But when you start threatening the guy and saying things that just are inappropriate, you got to remember, man, these people have kids and shit, and they read this stuff, and it's a game. It's supposed to be fun.
See,
but
I've always said that there should be a program that coaches can go harass you at your job too as well.
Yeah.
That would be like the best.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of like Cameo, but they actually come to your office and give you shit about stuff you do wrong.
Nice job drafting that pleading, Nathan. You meant 5 typos. Your game plan on that pleading was terrible. I agree. I think they should get to do that.
Lou Holtz would be the best because you get yelled at plus you get a shower at the same time. I mean,
and you can close your eyes and imagine that Daffy Duck is there. But these, especially like people that know nothing about football, have never coached a day in their life, and they think that they know more than everyone. I don't.
But they played NCAA 25, and they have recruited unbelievably well at Kennesaw State. They can win at Ohio State for real. Come on.
Yeah, sure. I saw somebody yesterday, a legitimate news outlet that said that they should hire Eddie George to be the head coach. And I'm like, what, dude? Come on.
Eddie, congratulations to Eddie on making Tennessee State to the 1AA playoffs. Not even sure how they did last night.
I don't know, but they did finish. I think they were 9-3 on the season before last night.
It looks like they
lost to Montana.
Yeah, I knew they were
27 to 41. They got dog stomped to the Montana Grizzlies.
Playing at Montana is tough, though, man.
Montana's
really
a good
rough environment.
Montana's a good program. My only point is Eddie George a step up from Ryan Day? I don't think so. And I love Eddie George.
Yeah.
Eddie George is the picture on my Twitter handle where he's running away from the Irish. So no one loves Eddie George more than me, but he's not going to replace Ryan Day. So, okay, well, we just talked for 1 hour and 8 minutes straight, so we are over our time limit here, but I think there was a lot to cover. I think there's more questions than answers out there. I'm glad I'm not on this committee. But good luck to them on Tuesday, because this is the one that actually matters.
The question is going to be who complains the most when they don't get in.
Yeah.
And then some jackknop's going to create the NIT for this too as well. And then we're going to have multiple tournaments where everybody gets in at some point. So
no, we're going to move to 18 teams next year because teams are going to be crying.
64 teams.
Yeah. That's what they're trying to expand the basketball now. They already did to 68, and now they want to push it to 72. It's like, dude, if you're not in the top 68, it's like, come on, Give me a fucking break.
First and second round in Boise, Boise, Idaho.
Yeah, give me a fucking break. Well, anyway, I think we covered it all today. I'm glad that I showed up. I would like to give, and I am going to go put my Buckeye stuff on. I didn't wear it here because
Who are you wearing today, by the way?
This is Daryl Tapp, a former Virginia Tech defensive end. This is his jersey from when he played with the Washington Redskins. I will say the word. And he's a defensive line coach now. He was with the 49ers. I'm not sure where he's at now, but badass. He was a badass at Virginia Tech.
I think we're the only show that actually talks about what people wear too, as well, from a sports side. So,
well, I always wear a game worn jersey on every show. It's just my thing, and I like it. And yes, actually, you know what's funny is Daryl Tapp is now the defensive line coach for the Washington Commanders. So this jersey's got a lot of street cred. But yeah, you know, I'm going to put my Buckeye stuff on. I'll take the beating. I don't just bail on my team, but I am bailing on the coach. I'm done defending his ass. It's over. So sorry, Ryan. I love you. You're a good man. I like you more as a man than I do a coach. Okay. Enough said. We'll talk again real soon. We'll be back here next week. We might try and do a short show at some point this week, or maybe over the weekend, or sometime after the tournament comes out, so we can break it down for everybody and let you know our thoughts. All right, James, keep your head up, keep your chin up, and I'll talk to you real soon.
Giddy up.